Y'all know when I said I wasn't going to make an episode today, the fact that I'm making one tells y'all that this is something pretty damn important. And boy, is it ever important, and it's got me hot under the collar. Stay tuned, y'all. It's about to get dicey.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. It doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and three toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5, end zone, touchdown, Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions fans, and welcome on back to yet another episode, an unplanned episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. Yes, as I said, this is an unplanned episode because obviously I pushed out on my community post that I wasn't going to be making any content today because I was working on another project that I will be able to release tomorrow. However, though, I'm just going to say this right now. You can always count on somebody, somewhere in the NFL world, to be stupid. You can always count on somebody, somewhere, to release an idiotic statement, ranking, idea, whatever the case is. Especially at this point of the offseason where we're in the doldrums of summer where there's just nothing really going on. And so pretty much it's kind of like free reign, if you will, to just say whatever the hell you want to say and not really have any backing or any substantial evidence to back up a claim, because realistically, nobody's really going to care, or at least most won't care. But why are we talking about this episode? I'm going to tell you why we're talking about this episode. Let's put it this way. For all my Lions fans that have been around since forever, there used to be a time where, you know what, it was not uncommon that the Lions would get dissed on. It was not only not uncommon, it was quite honestly expected because we were god-awful. We were a bad team. Bad franchise. There was a time where players would come to freaking Detroit to pretty much, die in their careers, where they would just be like, hey, you know what? I'm just here to cash a check. I'm not here to really do anything other than to, ride out my golden years to retirement. Pretty much our team was a laughingstock. There used to be a time where our team was one of the most, if not the most poorly managed teams in the NFL, to where we could not pretty much figure head or tails about how to make a team run. It was a black hole. That was then. What about now? Let's think about this. Now the Lions are one of the most talented teams in the NFL. They have got talent all over their roster. They are now a team where it's like, listen, you better not take them lightly. Otherwise, they will spank you. They will run all over you. They will throw all over you. They will destroy you. This is a team that now everybody and their brother wants to come and play for. They want to play for the Lions. They want to play for Dan Campbell. This is a team that went from being one of the worst managed teams in the NFL's history to now it is one of the best managed teams in NFL. And you've now got other teams that are trying to mimic, they're trying to copy our management style because of how well we have been able to turn things around. And honestly, one of the biggest things that's different between then versus now is we used to be an easy win on everybody's schedule. Now there's nothing easy about playing the Detroit Lions. It's going to be a hard-fought battle, and you better bring your lunch pail and you better bring your A-game, because if you don't, you're likely going to lose. So we're talking about that, right? The then versus the now. The Lions, what has got them to this point? What is the culmination of the fruit of their labors that can fully say, hey, this is why we're now where we're at? It's because, as I said, we have a very talented roster. Our roster literally is full of talent everywhere you go. It has got a ton of talent over the entirety of the roster, but it's also deep. There's roster talent every single place you look, and also on the back end in terms of reserves. And on top of that, not only is our roster talented, but it's got star power to it. Think about it. We've got superstars. We've got regular stars. We've got up-and-coming stars. We've got stars literally littered across the entirety of our roster, kind of like the heavens at night. That is how good our roster is right now. We've got players like Jared Goff, Frank Ragnow, Penei Sewell, freaking Jahmyr Gibbs. We've got a whole bunch of guys. Sam Laporta. I mean, you're talking about guys that are all over this roster. That's how damn good it is. But leave it to one individual, or rather one group, I should say, that would have to be the Lone Ranger and be stupid above all else and make an idiotic statement. Welcome on in, ESPN, everybody, to come and ruin the day. Why am I talking about this? Well, don't know if everybody knows this, but ESPN earlier today on ESPN Plus, they released their football rankings as far as the top rosters in the NFL. They ranked all 32 rosters and said, hey, 1 to 32, these are the rankings. So, where'd the Lions rank? Well, surprisingly, the Lions ranked at number 5, probably the highest they've ranked in a while. That's not surprising to us Lions fans because, well, as I just clearly stated, our roster is loaded with talent. It's loaded for bear with talent. So it's like, hey, pretty damn good. We're ranked number 5. We're not top 10. We're top 5. That's a damn good ranking. But who's in front of us? Here's who's in front of us. 49ers are ranked number 1. Okay, fine. I can get on board with that. I can somewhat go with that. Chiefs are ranked number 2. Okay, I can go along with that as well. Ravens, number 3. Fine, whatever. I can go along with that as well. Number 4. The mother-flipping, puke green New York Jets. I just have one thing to say. Y'all remember watching the 1990s movie Hercules, and whenever Hades would get super freaking hot, he would explode and say, what? That's literally what is going through my mind right now, because it's like, dude, how in the ever-living hell can a group of reporters, because think about it, this is not one individual writer that came up with this. This is a group of writers, this is a group of people that came together and said, hey, based upon what we're all thinking, this is where these guys rank. How can a whole group of people get that ranking so horribly wrong? Not just wrong, horribly wrong. Think about this, folks. I thought about possibly, doing an in-depth analysis point by point by point about every single position on the roster. I'm not going to do that because that's going to take for freaking ever. So rather what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on some larger groups, but I'm going to also focus on some smaller areas as well. Areas of importance and then, kind of broad stroking in other areas. So let's take a look at this, folks. Let's just take a look at rosters. Now, I know for some people when they think rosters, they're thinking in terms of player rosters. They're talking about players on the field. When I talk about roster, I am talking about the whole enchilada. I'm talking about coaches, I'm talking about players, that's what I'm talking about. Because think about it. The players need the coaches on the field so that way they know what their assignments are, make in-game adjustments, whatever the case might be. So it's like, listen, it's a whole-bodied work here. So let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at the coaches first and foremost. When you take a look at coaches, I'm just going to say this right now. Head coaches, this is a no contest. Dan Campbell, Robert Saleh. I still remember when Robert Saleh was open to possibly getting hired by the Lions at the same time that we were looking for a head coach after we fired Matt Patricia. There were a lot of Lions fans that wanted to bring Saleh back to Michigan because he is a Michigander. He is from Michigan. Ultimately, the Lions went with Dan Campbell. And I'm going to tell you this right now. I don't think there's a single Lions fan in the world that regrets that decision. I don't think there's a single person that would say, hey, let's go back and do that one over. And there's a pretty damn good reason why. Let's take a look at how Robert Saleh's tenure with the Jets has gone versus what Dan Campbell's tenure with the Lions has gone. Pretty much, Robert Saleh has pretty much done this. It has pretty much maintained the same status quo. And let's call it for what it is. The status quo for the Jets has not been very good. They've won, maybe 6, 7, 8 games every single year he's been the head coach. They're either they're not a 500 team. They're a below 500 team every single year he's been the head coach. Every single year. Now, is that all Robert Saleh's fault? No, it's not. But let's just call it for what it is. Robert Saleh inherited a much better team than Dan Campbell did. Yet Dan Campbell had gotten his Lions, his team, to the playoffs, won 2 playoff games, and got to a conference championship game before Robert Saleh could even get a winning season, let alone get to the playoffs, just get a winning season. So Dan Campbell easily wins that one. Then you take a look at the offensive coordinators. Ben Johnson versus Nathaniel Hackett. Okay, I'm sorry. The only reason that Nathaniel Hackett even has a job at this point is because the quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, wants him there. Otherwise, Nathaniel Hackett couldn't hack it in the NFL at this point. He did such a lousy job with the Broncos, I wouldn't think anybody would want him except Aaron Rodgers. Ben Johnson easily wins that one going away in spades. Then you take a look at the defensive coordinators. That's Aaron Glenn and Ben Ulbrich. But I'm just going to be entirely honest here. Ben Ulbrich is just the defensive coordinator in title only. The guy who actually runs the defense, that actually calls the defense, that's Robert Saleh. And if we're going to compare Aaron Glenn to Robert Saleh wins all day. Then you take a look at the special teams coordinator. I can't remember who the hell the Jets special teams coordinator is, but I know ours is Dave Phipps. I'm just going to say this right now. Our special teams every single year are ranked as one of the best special teams units in the NFL. So again, win for the Lions there. So just when you take a look at the coaching staff, our coaching staff does better. Our coaching staff is more sought after. And on top of that, our head coach has actually gotten us to nearly the promised land and has actually got 2 playoff wins, a division title, and 2 winning seasons in his 3 years as head coach, whereas Robert Saleh has goose eggs in literally every single one of those categories. Moving on to the roster. Let's move on to the biggest, most important position on a roster, the quarterback position. I'm telling you this right now. I usually don't go for vulgarity on my show, but I'm going to just for this one moment. I cannot understand why ESPN and so many other people in the NFL community continue to ride Aaron Rodgers' jock. I can't understand it. It's like, dude, when you take a look at this ranking, I would be almost willing to bet that a lot of people are looking at the quarterback comparison and are saying, hey, Jared Goff's a pretty good quarterback. Jared Goff is a top 10 quarterback, but this is still Aaron freaking Rodgers. And it's like, no, it's not still Aaron freaking Rodgers. It's not even close. Let's think about this, folks. Seriously think about this. Over the last 2 years, Jared Goff has put up a fringe top 5 season in 2022 and has put up a top 10 season in 2023. Jared Goff over the last 3 years with the Detroit Lions is one of the most productive quarterbacks in the NFL. I mean, it's not even close. Plus, on top of that, Jared Goff, like I said, helped the Lions win a division title, helped them win 2 playoff games, got them to the conference championship game. All of this is because of Jared Goff and definitely a lot of others, but Jared Goff is a huge component in all that. What has Aaron Rodgers been doing for the last 2 years? Oh, that's right. He's been doing nothing. The man that used to discount, double-check everybody, the only thing he's been doing for the last 2 years has been discount, double-checking his shaman. That's about it. And this is the same guy who said, hey, I want to be accountable. I want everybody to be accountable in the Jets locker room. But yeah, when it comes time for mandatory minicamp, the leader of the team sends the exact opposite message and says, well, I'm going to go off somewhere else because I don't feel that I need to be here. You're the captain of the football team, and you're pretty much sending the message that, oh, the rules don't apply to me. You're the captain. The rules apply to you even more. But even if we don't want to talk about that, when was the last time Aaron Rodgers had a good season of football? Not since 2021. Because if you go back to 2022, the last year he played with the Packers, his passer rating was a 91. He had 12 interceptions that year. Now, granted, the Packers didn't really have a whole lot on that roster to help Aaron Rodgers. But if Aaron Rodgers is such a great quarterback, he should have been able to have taken what he had and used it to a much better ability to get into the playoffs. But instead, wait a minute. Oh, that's right. Who eliminated his bum butt from the playoffs? That would have been the Detroit Lions at Lambeau Field Monday night with Kirby Joseph picking off his butt and retiring his number 12 at Lambeau Field. Thank you and good night. Then you start moving off of the quarterback. Let's take a look at the running backs here. Okay, who is the running back for the Jets? Realistically, the only running back that they have that has any sort of name recognition or any sort of actual playing experience is Breece Hall. Breece Hall's an okay running back. He's not a top 10. He might not even be a top 15 running back. He's just a solid running back. Whereas the Lions, who do we have? We have Jahmyr Gibbs and we have David Montgomery. Montgomery, who ran for 1,000 yards behind a crap Chicago Bears offensive line, then comes here, runs 1,000 yards behind our offensive line, scores 10 touchdowns in 1 year. Okay, that's great. Then you take a look at Jahmyr Gibbs, also scored 10 touchdowns in 1 year, almost rushed for 1,000 yards his rookie year. Wait a minute here. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs ran for almost 2,000 yards in their first year together? Freaking Breece Hall last year didn't even run for 1,000 yards. So no, the running back doesn't even compare. Lions win that one all day. Then we go to the wide receivers. Now, here's where I could say this could actually get into a rather interesting debate here. The Lions' top wide receivers are J-Mo and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown obviously being number 1, J-Mo number 2. For the Jets, it's Garrett Wilson and their newly acquired guy Mike Williams from the Chargers. Now, I'm going to say this. If this was Mike Williams 2021, then the Jets might actually win this comparison. But Mike Williams hasn't been that guy in literally 2 years. Last year, he put up an average kind of season. The year before last, it was an average kind of season. And last year, he spent most of it injured, so he didn't really do anything. So it's like, okay, you just signed a guy that really hasn't had the ability to do anything because of injury. Whereas you take a look at Amon-Ra St. Brown, every single year he's gotten better. So I already look at him as being a better wide receiver than Garrett Wilson. But J-Mo is primed for a breakout year. J-Mo is one of the fastest players in the NFL. So yeah, just based on that alone, I think the Lions edge out the freaking Jets, but barely. Then you take a look at tight end. Okay, Sam Laporta, and who do the Jets have? I think his name is like Tyler Conklin or something like that. Yeah, sorry, Sam Laporta beats your butt every day of the week, twice on Sunday. Moving right along, offensive line. Don't get me started. The Lions' offensive line is literally probably the only elite one in the NFL. Our offensive line is so damn good that I don't even think that there's another group, another offensive line unit that comes even close to ours. Pretty much it's, hey, the Lions are in a class all their own, and then the next group underneath that's considered like your top 5, top whatever. So offensive line, Detroit wins all day. That pretty much means the Lions' offense completely trounces the Jets' offense. Now we get to the defense. Now here's what I am going to say. The one saving grace that Robert Saleh has had as the head coach of the Jets is that he's been able to put out pretty damn good defenses with those Jets, which, I mean, for crying out loud, the guy's a defensive guru. He did it very well when I think he was with the San Francisco 49ers. He's continued to do it very well with the Jets. Just hasn't resulted in wins and him being able to, produce a winning season. But I think that's more due to the fact he hasn't really had any good quarterback play in the last couple of years. Anyway, c'est la vie. Point of the matter is, let's take a look at what we have here. Lions defensive line versus the Jets defensive line. As much as I hate to say it, the Jets defensive line is a lot better than the Lions. Realistically, we have Aleem McNeil. He's a very, very, very good defensive interior man. We also have DJ Reader, also very, very good defensive interior man. And we have Aiden Hutchinson. But I'm going to be quite honest. As much as I love Aleem McNeil, as much as I love DJ Reader, I'm sorry, Quinnen Williams is a whole different beast. Quinnen Williams is a guy that you do not want to tangle with because he is a guy that will make you eat your lunch. And realistically, the way that Jets defensive line is set up, it's a formidable unit. So I honestly have to give the Jets defensive line the edge over the Lions. Now when you start taking a look at the linebackers, the linebacking unit for the Lions, it's okay. It's pretty solid. You got Anzalone, you got Jack Campbell who's on the up and up, you've obviously got Malcolm Rodriguez. But again, the problem with the Lions defense, as pretty much is going to be the case on almost every single level, is that you have some solid pieces, but the pieces are nowhere near as established or do not have the same track record as what are on the Jets. That's why the offense of the Lions is a lot better than the Jets offense, whereas the Jets defense is a lot better than the Lions. Now, I will say this. When it comes to the cornerback discussion, the Lions have good depth in terms of their cornerbacks because you got Carlton Davis, you got Enos Rakestraw, you got Terrion Arnold, you got all that with you. You've got solid depth. But I'm sorry, I hate to say this, and I know it kind of sounds really crappy, but it's like, listen, all three of those guys, they are not Sauce Gardner. I'm sorry, they're just not. And it's like, listen, You take a look at the situation that the Lions have right now. We do not have a Sauce Gardner on our roster. Sauce Gardner can literally shut down half a field all by himself. The Lions don't have one of those yet. I'm hoping Terrion Arnold will be. But when you take a look at that makes Sauce Gardner just that much more valuable for the Jets. So again, I have to take a look at it from the whole spectrum of the situation. But then again, let's move into special teams. We really don't know what we have at kicker just yet. I believe Michael Badgley is better than who the Jets have at kicker, and obviously I believe our punter is the best punter in the league. But if you're realistically talking about who has a better overall roster in terms of overall talent up front over the entirety of the roster, and you're talking about depth, That's the Lions. The Lions have the better depth. They have the better overall roster from top to bottom. Because again, you take a look at it, the Lions defense is not that far removed from the Jets. I think, if I recall correctly, the Lions defense last year was ranked, 13th in DVOA? The Jets were ranked 3rd. That's not that big of a difference. But I guarantee you this, the Jets' offensive DVOA was in the freaking sewer. It was in the toilet compared to the Lions. So it's like if you're realistically doing a balancing act here, the Jets should not be in front of the Lions. Nowhere even close. And for a lot of people to try and hope and hinge and pray that freaking Aaron Rodgers at 40 years old coming off of a ruptured Achilles tendon is all of a sudden going to make the Jets, be, Super Bowl contenders, I'm sorry, you're living in Deluluville. It's not going to happen. But anyway, I just figured I'd talk about this because this is something that really caught my attention, got hot under my collar, and I could not say anything about it. But anyway, folks, I'm going to end the episode here and say thank you all for watching another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these 3 things: like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. If by chance you subscribed in the past and forgot to do so at the time, or you just subscribed and not had a chance to do so, again, I highly encourage y'all to make sure you subscribe. But I also want to make sure you guys turn on that bell notification icon as well, so that way you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Also encourage y'all, please, to share the content with your Lions friends and family members. Share here on YouTube, share it on Twitter, share it on Facebook, share anywhere and everywhere you can with everybody and anybody that you can. And with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed the content. Hope you all got something in your life that makes you happy, makes you smile. And with that, I just want to say God bless, and until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.